Welcome to Season 1, Episode 6 of Life Beyond Loss, the podcast. This is a guest show where we share the most amazing and inspirational stories of navigating grief and loss through to healing and transformation. I'm your host, Louise Kresick, grief and loss coach, and in this show I'm chatting to food relationship coach, Louise Tanner-Stokes. We're talking about the type of loss that she experienced after losing her dream job, as well as the story of how losing her grandma became the link to her mission and her purpose. She's a rebel with a cause, and you're going to love this one, so stay tuned. Welcome to today's show. I'm joined here by the lovely Louise Tanner-Stokes. She's a food relationship coach and an anti-dieting rebel. Welcome to the show, Louise.
Hi, Louise. Thanks so much for having me here.
You're welcome. Do you like that intro?
I love it. I love it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, tell us anyway. Let's explain to the audience a little bit more then about the anti-dieting rebel bit, and just tell everyone, who you are and what you do.
Yeah. So I'm Louise Tanner-Stokes, and I'm building the anti-dieting revolution. So in a nutshell, I help mums ditch the diets. So I'm actually a registered dietitian, but I prefer to call myself a food relationship coach, because I look at people's relationship with food. I'm a mum myself, so I have a little girl, she's a toddler, and I'm really passionate about food, especially tea and cake and chocolate, and I love all the goodies and things, and I just find it really sad that people feel guilty about their eating, particularly things like the cake and the chocolate and all the goodies and things like that. So I help people lose weight without any of that dieting deprivation and punishment. So that's why I'm an anti-dieting rebel, because I'm rebelling against the traditional dieting way of doing things, really.
Yeah. If you had to choose a food, what would you choose, cake or chocolate?
Oh, don't choose. Oh, what if I could never have the other one?
Yeah.
Good. Chocolate cake, probably.
Okay. Cool. That's so me making you choose, but definitely a girl after my own heart. I agree with that. Chocolate all the way, chocolate cake all the way. Yeah. But aside from this amazing work that you do, and I've followed you for quite a while, and also we have to show the audience that we actually don't live too far apart either, do we? We're in the same county.
Shropshire, yeah, beautiful Shropshire.
So we met, I don't know, about 12 months ago, something like that. But also, having sort of come to know you and a little bit about, your background and your story, you've got, your own kind of personal experience with loss as well, haven't you? So why don't you just sort of tell us maybe, what is it that loss means to you?
Yeah, so there's two areas of loss that's kind of affected me really in my life. The most recent one was that I was made redundant from a job that I absolutely loved. I was working for the NHS. I was helping people lose weight. So I was working for weight loss services. And it was a little bit complicated because I was actually technically in 4 different roles. So I was working also in emotional health and mental well-being. And yeah, being made redundant was quite a big thing, because I was at a point where I thought, you know what, this is it. This is my dream job. I'm doing what I love. I absolutely love this. And then it all just fell apart. I got made redundant, and that it pushed me into self-employment really. Because I toyed with the idea of self-employment, but not seriously until the redundancy, really.
So, this job redundancy stuff is really, really interesting, because I do work with clients around this, and people don't actually always see this as a type of a loss. They don't always think of it as a loss, but actually, the process, and I've been through that myself a couple of times, is really hard. It's really tough, like not just physically, but emotionally as well. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, yeah, because it was it was part of my identity, that this was my job. It was my my calling in life, if you like. And when I look around for other work, there just wasn't anything similar. I feel emotional just talking about it still. Even, we're talking, it was 2013 that it first started. And it actually went on for about a year, because they made a load of cuts, and I got made redundant from one role, but carried on the key role, if that makes sense. And then eventually, a year later, I got made redundant from my core role. I think that's the right way of saying it, actually. It was my core role. So it was a year-long process. And yeah, I mean, initially when they first said they were making these cuts, I was absolutely devastated, because I thought, I've arrived, this is where I wanted to be. And then it felt like it was all just kind of pulled out from underneath me.
Yeah.
So yeah,
absolutely.
It was like a sense of things falling apart, that initial kind of sense of loss. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely can relate that feeling of having a rug pulled out from underneath you, because I guess it's sort of like, you just sort of life as normal, really, and you just sort of trundling along. And there is often, I think, with most people, when they get given that news, a bit of a shock factor. You don't always see it coming, do you? So yeah, I completely understand that. So what impact did that job redundancy have on your life at the time?
Yeah, so the impact it had on me at the time, well, the initial impact was that I was devastated. I was like, this is my dream job. Like I said, I don't know if I said already, but I've had, I was in 4 different roles within the wider health improvement team. And one of them particularly, I was working for a project called Why Wait for Tomorrow, which is working with people who wanted bariatric surgery, and we were helping them and mainly showing them that they didn't need to go for the surgery. It was a fantastic project. And I really just thought, this is where I want to be. This is what I want to do. Everything I was doing was kind of connecting with each other. I was working for emotional health and wellbeing services as well. And it all connected together. And it was just my dream job. And I was initially, like I said, I was devastated, because I just thought, what do I do now? I looked around, there wasn't really anything else nearby. And I just, luckily, because of the emotional health work I've been doing, I had learnt some skills that really helped kind of ground me, if that makes sense. So I learnt that everything I felt that everything happens for a reason, that everything would be okay. And it was like I said, it was a year-long process where they started off, they made me redundant for one role. A couple of the 2 other roles were temporary roles, so they just cancelled those. I was back down to my 3 days a week, my core hours, and even that, they said, we don't know what's going to happen after March 2014. So it was April 2013 until March 2014 that I had, until I had to decide what I needed to do. And there was a gradual process of exploring different things, looking at what I could do, and I came to the conclusion, luckily, I think it was by about kind of November, December time, that I was going to go self-employed. And it was quite a fun journey, actually. And I was quite open to that, luckily, because of the work I'd done in emotional health and well-being. And I toyed with the idea of going self-employed, but I always thought it'd be something I'd come back to, 10 years time or whatever. but now it was like, now's my chance to have a go. So it kind of worked out as a positive in the end, really.
Yeah, I think there's quite a few people that I know of that, you know, their self-employment has come from that sort of opportunity, that, and certainly for me was the case where, you know, you get made redundant, and it's you can, I think that personally you can look at it, you know, one or two ways, and you know, it's really kind of easy to get like sinking under the emotions, isn't it? And like kind of start feeling like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And panic sets in. And or
Yeah.
you can kind of choose to say, you know what, right, this is an opportunity right here, and maybe now is the time for me to think about what I really want to do with myself, and perhaps follow that passion. But I think it's easier said than done, isn't it, sometimes? And it's how, you know,
Yeah.
how do we get past that initial fear? I suppose fear is probably the main thing, isn't it, that kicks in for most people. So what do you think? How do we like get past that fear of, you know, holding ourselves back?
Do you know what? I don't think fear ever really kind of goes, because there's always something new that brings that sense of fear. There's always something unknown.
Yeah.
And life in itself really is unknown. We never know what's going to happen tomorrow, do we? So I think it's looking at it in a different way, that it's an exciting opportunity really, and rather than kind of feeling afraid, which is okay, it's okay to feel any way that you feel, but looking at things as being exciting opportunities really. I think that's what's helped me anyway. That's definitely helped me.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a matter of perspective, and you know, that mindset is absolutely a choice, I think. Would you agree with that?
Definitely it is. It's a choice, kind of what stories you say to yourself and the perspective you take and everything, and recognizing there are different perspectives, and it's up to you which one you look at. But it can be hard. I'm not saying it's easy at all. It's
Yeah.
just being open, I think.
Yeah, and there's people out there now maybe listening to this that might be in that kind of situation where they're at that juncture, and you know, perhaps they've got this opportunity, or I mean there's people also equally that are stuck in this, they feel stuck and trapped in a job that they don't even enjoy, do they, and wanting to really, you know, do this, but then again allowing that kind of fear to maybe kind of get in the way. So what, you know, how did you kind of make that step, or that, I don't know if it was a step or a leap from, you know, seeing that opportunity to then sort of, you know, making things happen for yourself?
I think it was a combination of a lot of things. I think there was that belief and that trust that everything kind of works out okay, that I'm always going to be okay, that, you know, everything happens for a reason. Talking to people, like I said before, staying open to the possibility of, you know, different opportunities, and just taking it step by step. So it was definitely a step by step process for me, because I think I got the opportunity to have a go at, there was a course or something like that was about business, but I wasn't really seriously considering self-employment, but I still went on that course anyway. And then there was another course opportunity which I went on a little bit later on, and I met people who then talked about self-employment and put me in touch with other people. And you know, one thing kind of led to another, and it was like doors just opening as a result of different little baby steps that I took, really. So it was like a gradual step-by-step process.
Yeah.
Like I said, it was like a journey. That year was like a journey for me, and it still is.
But I suppose what
Still
I'm
is a journey.
hearing as well is just this will to, you know, really just put yourself out there as well, and explore and just follow things and see where it goes to.
Yeah, definitely. It
Um,
doesn't always feel easy, but
no,
it's
yeah, I think there's definitely a bit of bravery, as I'm still learning in my own kind of journey about, you know, building a business. It's about being brave and just, you know, doing it sometimes regardless of that fear. But I think that,
Yeah.
what you were saying there, what I was hearing a lot of is, you just following your instinct and maybe just, rocking up to an event or a training, or, just going with it and just seeing where that kind of goes. And as you said, like, one thing kind of led to another for you.
Yeah, definitely. It really did. It really did. When I look back, it's like, well, it was obvious, but at the time I didn't know where I was going. I still don't really know where I'm going, but yeah, what do they say? Hindsight's 2020, isn't it? It's 2020 vision, but it really did just all kind of slot into place slowly and gradually. So at the time you don't realise it, but looking back, it's like, yeah.
Yeah,
Really.
and looking back now then as well, from your, that initial period of the redundancy where you were, just kind of devastated and all of that stuff, how do you think now that it's kind of changed your life overall?
I think it's kind of reinforced my belief in myself that I can get through anything, that I can do anything, that I can, that I will always be okay, that everything works out, that everything happens for a reason, and that everything will be okay eventually, if that makes sense. It might not feel or seem okay at the time, but it will always be. That makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It's that fundamental, like you said, the trusting in the process, isn't it, I guess? Do you think
Yeah.
that it's changed you, sort of like fundamentally, like your core? Do you think there's any kind of, transformation? What sort of personal growth has taken place for you?
Ooh, again, it just goes back to this belief in myself, this recognizing my own abilities and my strength, my tenacity. Yeah.
I love that word.
Yes.
It's just such a
I
great
never
word.
give up. Stubborn
Tenacity.
is another way of saying it.
Yeah, stubborn. Yeah, I just wonder,
Yeah.
like, do you think that, I mean, I know personally for me, I think definitely my self-confidence as well has grown because of, I think from that trust and trusting in the process and just, taking the next step and the next step. I look back now and think maybe actually at the time when I was in that job, perhaps my confidence was a little bit restricted in some way.
Yeah.
It's almost like giving me this, I suppose the freedom's a good word, isn't it? Almost giving me this freedom
Yeah.
to feel more confident about who I am, as a person, because now it's like Louise the business owner or Louise the coach, as opposed to like Louise, in that kind of big cog, like that, that one person in a big cog, which is how it felt for me very much in an organisational setting. But yeah, so I just wondered whether there's, in terms of your own personal growth, whether there's anything you kind of identify.
Yeah. I think, I mean, I've definitely, I've had to look at being a lot more, what's the word? Aware of myself, I guess, which I was, to some degree, I was learning in the work that I was doing. But like you say, I probably was limited in that role because I was part of a bigger, wider organization, whereas now I'm just me. And it's all about me. Although obviously with client work it's not about me, but my business is me, and I've had to be aware of my own background, my own story, my everything that I've done and how it's shaped me, and I've thought about that a lot more, I guess.
Yeah, definitely that I think for me, yeah, freedom's the word, but freedom to be you. And
Yeah.
it's the fact that your business, I guess, is a reflection of you, isn't it? Because it's something you're so passionate about. It just feels
Definitely.
good, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I've had realizations as well that I hadn't even thought about before, which has been part of exploring me and who I am and what I do and why I do it as well. So that's definitely been a big part of it.
Yeah. And so within those realizations that you talked about with yourself, and you've got your own, you know, sort of other kind of personal experiences of loss, which I know has helped sort of really been quite an important part of your business, hasn't it? And your kind of your mission or your driver for your business. So do you just want to share this other kind of little story about loss and how that fits in? Is that okay?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I when I first went self-employed, it was always about, you know, the redundancy. I'd been made redundant. It was a job I absolutely loved. I wanted to carry on by myself. That's what I used to say. And it was only a couple of years ago, as I said, part of this kind of self-exploration and, you know, looking at my background and my story and where I come from, if that makes sense, where the passion, where the drive comes from. And I stopped and I realised that, you know, it comes from way further back than the redundancy. Because when I was a kid, I wanted to be a vet. And I sat and I thought, what the hell happened? You know, from going from wanting to be a vet to this being passionately anti-dieting. And it was the loss of my grandma when I was 11. That, I think that kind of started a change in me, really. It wasn't until a little bit later, I think I was in my mid-teens when I kind of had the second part of the realisation about her and her story that led to where I am now. So at the time, I didn't realise something big had started for me. It was the first loss of somebody that I loved, and it was devastating. She was a very, very overweight lady. She had dieted her whole life. She had tried everything to lose weight, and yeah, she died far too young. But it was when I was in my kind of mid-teens that I realised the impact of the whole dieting industry and what that impact had on her, really. I saw a home video. I think it was my auntie's christening. So my grandma, it was before she'd started all this kind of dieting, and she hadn't lost her baby weight, but she looked incredible. She looked really healthy. She looked fine. You know what I mean? She looked fine. She didn't look like she needed to lose weight. But it was about that time that she started dieting to try and lose the weight, because she'd been a lot slimmer when she was younger. And I, watching this video, I just could not believe it. And it's always stuck with me. And I think this is where this passionate anti-dieting streak in me has come from, because, I always think if she'd never gone down that route of dieting, I don't know if she'd still be here, but she would certainly not have got as overweight as she'd got. Because she tried to lose weight. She'd go on the diet, she'd lose it, and then she'd come off the diet, she'd put it back on again, plus a little bit more, and she just yo-yoed from dieting to not dieting and just got bigger and bigger. And it's the same story that I kept hearing when I was working for the NHS. The people that I was working with in the various projects, they were saying the same thing. When they were younger, they were actually healthy, but they thought they needed to lose, half a stone or a stone. So they went on a diet and they lost it. And they yo-yoed just like my grandma. Went on a diet, lost the weight, put it back on again, plus a bit more, and got bigger and bigger. And yeah, I never twigged at the time that, because I was always quite passionately anti-dieting. I would always say, don't ever go on a diet. Even what we're recommending, this healthy, balanced diet, you don't need to follow it perfectly, and you don't need to change everything about what you do. But I hadn't twigged until I went self-employed, and I actually sat and thought about it and realised that basically what I want to do is I want to stop people from going down the route my grandma went down. I want to help them enjoy their food and not have to go on a diet to lose weight. Show them that you don't have to diet. You don't have to go on a diet. You don't have to deprive yourself. You don't have to punish yourself. you absolutely can have the cake and the chocolate and all the goodies and still be in control of your weight. You absolutely can. So that's where that came from, in a nutshell.
I love it. I love that story. It's just so, I don't know, it's just, I think what amazes me about this is that even though, so you were 11 when your nan passed away, is that right?
Yeah, I was 11. Yeah, she was the first person in my life who. So obviously, it was horrible at the time. Yeah.
But even though you were such a young age, it's sort of, on one level, I guess that whole bit about the dieting and what you were kind of observing in her behaviour, even at a young age, sort of stayed with you. On some, it must have done, hadn't it? Because then, like years later, like you say, you suddenly sort of made the connection there between where that kind of passion has come from. I just find it really, really interesting that, you know, kind of all those years later, that sort of that purpose is like, this is how it sort of manifested itself.
Definitely, yeah. It's like it shaped me, and this is my mission now.
Yeah. And so how much of, you know, this whole weight loss / dieting thing is kind of down to our mindset then?
Oh, I think probably most of it, because a lot of people are stuck with this. They have this idea that the only way to lose weight is to go on a diet, that they have to change everything. And also that they, how do I put this? They think that they only need to do that until they get to the target weight. They only need to make the changes until they lose the weight. They forget that actually whatever you do to lose weight, you've got to do forever. So that's where changing everything, following some strict plan, really doesn't help you, because you can't stick to it forever. It's too difficult, it's too much, and it's not really necessary. And when you restrict yourself too much and you get to your target weight and then you think, oh, I can just go back to what I was doing before, and then you put the weight back on again, you often put more weight back on because you've restricted yourself too much, and you get a little bit obsessed with food, if that makes sense. So you think, oh, well, I can eat what I like now, and you overdo it without realizing it. So it really it messes things up in terms of your relationship with food.
Yeah, and it's again really interesting to me, isn't it? We live in this kind of quick fix kind of culture as well, or society, where, you know, it's like, well, actually, I'm going on holiday in a few weeks' time, and I need to get down to this weight because I just want to look good in my bikini. And then when I get on my holiday, actually, I'm just going to kind of eat what I want and stuff my face. And we've all, like, most of us, I guess maybe you haven't, Louise, because you have been more aware than most, but I think the majority of us, including me, have all been there. We've all, gosh, I think I did the 1200 calorie diet at one point. And it just was like, I was so hungry all the time.
Yeah, definitely. You get obsessed then, don't you?
Yeah, it's that quick fix kind of society that we live in. Why I absolutely love, you know, your whole way of approaching this, and I feel that there is a movement growing now around this. Do you feel that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know other people who are kind of teaching similar things to me. Maybe they don't make so much of an emphasis on cake and chocolate and enjoying the goodies and things, but there's definitely this kind of this anti-dieting movement, and recognize, I think, like you said about mindset, it's recognizing that it is about the long haul, and that's one of the hardest things for people, because, you know, we want to have our cake and eat it, so to speak, don't we? We want to be slim and eat what we like. And it is a hard thing, definitely.
And I will just say to the listeners, go and check out Louise's most recent kind of photo, because it's just brilliant. It's absolutely amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
What's the inspiration? Like, I know there's a proper name for this, wasn't there? But I can't remember off the top of my head what it was. So what was the inspiration behind it?
Yeah, so it's me doing the Rosie the Riveter
That's
pose.
that's the lady. That's the lady. Couldn't think of her
So
name.
she so it said that if you've heard of Rosie the Riveter, you're I'm sure you'll know the if you Google Rosie the Riveter, you'll know the pose. And the idea was we can do it, I think.
Yeah.
And it was, you know, women taking on roles in the Second World War, I think, and
Yeah.
being, you know, we can get over all this stuff. And I just love the image because I love the kind of the vintage, I love that whole vintage aesthetic anyway. And I just thought, do you know what? I've got me holding a cupcake instead of just the fist. It's I'm holding a cupcake, and it's like, yeah, you can eat the cake if you want to. We can do it. We can lose weight without the, you know, we can lose the weight without depriving ourselves of the cake. Um, Eat cake if you want to. That's the kind of the that was the kind of the inspiration. So yeah, come and
Absolutely.
join the anti-darting revolution.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. I love it. So I would love to just perhaps for you to share a few little tips then just to round off. That'd be really helpful, I think.
Yeah.
In terms of like, I guess perhaps a bit of a combo, because you've talked about the job loss and the job redundancy, but then I guess you
Mm.
talked about your own sort of personal story around, you know, losing your nan, but how that's kind of helped to sort of fuel your passion and your purpose. So kind of taking all
Mm.
that into account, what kind of, you know, tips would you share with people that perhaps maybe to start with somebody that might be going through, you know, a job redundancy right now, or maybe they've just had the news of that. What would
Yeah.
you say to those people?
I think from a practical point of view, it's about giving yourself time to heal. So doing the things that you feel you need to do to take like a metaphorical step back, if that makes sense.
Mm.
So taking time out, just to let yourself kind of process the news and you know, don't do anything rash unless it feels right. But taking that time to heal. And I think from a kind of a, I don't know, mindset point of view, it's just trust yourself, believe that you're always going to be okay, that everything will be okay, everything will work out, even if it feels like it's not going to, it will. I promise. I think
Yeah,
that's the main thing, really.
I love that because it's so often, I think some clients that I work with as well, it's you get the news and then the first thing people tend to do is panic. It's panic, panic, panic. I
Mm.
must get on, must sort my CV, must get on, like do a job search, quick, 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 need to reflect. But actually that metaphorical step back, I love what you said there, because it's, you know,
Mm.
actually let's just center ourselves here and kind of just
Yeah,
breathe, just breathe.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so yeah, I love that. Have you got any other kind of general kind of, you know, tips or words of encouragement that you want to share?
Um, you can get through anything. If I can, you can. Definitely.
Yeah.
Because it really will always be okay. Everything, you know, I'm a big believer that everything happens for a reason, and things kind of things will work out. Just keep talking to people, keep going out and just speaking to people, sharing how you feel, asking what other people do, and you know, just explore as many options as you can, really, and it will all work out. It will.
And where can people sort of find you as well, get hold of you if they want to, you know, ask anything specific about the dieting stuff, or um, just get in touch with you?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook. So if you search Louise TannerStokes, my page should hopefully come up. It's got the little handle, I don't know if that's the right word, the Anti-Dieting Rebel. I'm also on LinkedIn as well, so you can find me on there. Again, Louise TannerStokes. And yeah, I've got a Facebook group if anyone wants to come and get more support and tips. And that's called the Anti-Dieting Revolution. It's aimed at mums. I mean, you don't need to be a mum. I've got a few fur baby mums in there, but it is more kind of aimed at women, I would say. So yeah, I hope that's okay with
Well,
you.
I'm not a mum, and I'm in there. Well, apart from having a fur baby, but I'm in there, and I absolutely love your work, Louise. And also, just would recommend people to the free course as well as a starting 10. So how can we get hold of that? How can we get hold of the free course?
If you go to my Facebook page and click on the sign up button, and that should take you to the link to sign up for that. So that's my free healthy eating explained course. It just shows you what is just normal healthy eating and how you can include the cake and chocolate and goodies or whatever it is that you love. It just shows you how to do that. Dead easy, dead simple. It's not not complicated. You don't have to follow it all perfectly, but it's a good place to start, I think.
Definitely. Thank you so much for joining me on this show. It's been wonderful to have another catch up, another chat with you. And I've got a cherry scone with my name on it.
Lovely. I've got to go and have some lunch as well. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
So
I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed talking to you.